I realized that for few of my upcoming videos, I would need an oscilloscope. I actually never owned one, and the last time I used it was back in high school when the oscilloscope looked like this. In this video, I will show you which one I picked, how much I paid for it, and whether it was any good. If you want to find out, stick around. I started looking for a handheld oscilloscope, and to my horror I realized that the recommended handheld oscilloscope can set me back $300 or even more. But do I really need something that expensive? I don't need multiple channels, and I won't be using it for any advanced circuit troubleshooting. Then I came across this one on AliExpress. The price, around $20, was great, and the device in the photos actually looked pretty decent. So I bought it and patiently waited for it to arrive. And here it is. Let's do the unboxing. I have already gone through God knows how many layers of duct tape to uncover this styrofoam container. Inside is a box with my scope. Let's open it. And here is our tiny oscilloscope. Looks okay, right? On the back you have a fold-out stand which lets you place the scope in an upright position. The build quality is actually pretty good. The case feels solid and the plastic quality is fine as well. Apart from the oscilloscope itself, you get a short manual in multiple languages with just the basic information. There is also a probe cable with 2 alligator clips and the USB-C cable for powering and charging the device. Before we start, a quick disclaimer. I have not been asked to review this product. I just realized that I need an oscilloscope, and this is one of my many AliExpress purchases. What works perfectly for my somewhat limited needs might be completely unsuitable for somebody else. So whatever I say here, please take it with a grain of salt. Let's take a closer look at this device and power it on. The background grid is a typical oscilloscope time voltage grid. Horizontal spacing represents the time per division. Vertical spacing represents the voltage per division. Here's the time axis. By pressing and holding the run button briefly, you can display the parameters of the incoming signal. The oscilloscope shows the signal's peak-to-peak voltage, maximum and minimum levels, frequency and more. At any time you can take a snapshot of the signal for analysis by short pressing the run button. Pressing run again resumes capturing the signal in real time. At the bottom of the screen you will see the parameters you can adjust to control how the signal is displayed. You select and adjust them using this parameter select knob. For example, you can measure either AC or DC voltage. For this demonstration I will stick with DC. The next parameter is the time scale, which determines how much time each horizontal grid square represents. In this case we capture 12 times 1 second, giving us 12-second signal window. Next is the multiplier settings. If the signal is very weak, you can amplify it 10 times. I won't use it for this demonstration. Finally, we have the voltage scale, which defines how many volts each vertical grid square represents. Here we can capture plus minus 4 volts. Now let's measure our first signal. I will connect the probe, and on the other end we have 2 alligator clips. I will test this AAA 1.5 volt battery. It works. With 1 volt per division selected, the signal reaches about 1.5 grid squares. Looking at the signal details, we see it actually measures 1.63 volts, slightly above the nominal voltage. If I change the voltage scale to 0.5 volts per division, the signal spans 3 grid squares, which still corresponds to 1.5 volts. Perfect. If I swap the alligator connections, the voltage remains the same, but the polarity inverts, and the signal is displayed in the bottom half of the screen. Finally, let's capture a snapshot of the signal. I'll introduce a few changes in the signal, and with a short press of the run button, we can take a snapshot. And there it is. So let's bring the microcontroller into the equation. We will start with Arduino Nano. and a simple setup using a linear potentiometer to control LED's brightness. We'll read the potentiometer value from the A4 pin of the Arduino, which ranges from 0 to 1023. Then we map that value to 0 to 255 range and send it to the pin connected to the LED. This allows us to control the LED brightness using the potentiometer. In the code, we first declare the potentiometer and LED pins and set the LED pin as output in the setup function. In the loop, we read the value from the potentiometer and use the map function to convert it from 0 to 1023 range to 0 to 225. Fun fact, in this particular example we don't actually need the map function. We can achieve the same result by simply dividing the potentiometer value by 4. We can also achieve the same result by shifting the bits of the integer stored in the value variable 2 positions to the right. I will store the mapped result in a variable called PWM value, because Arduino uses pulse width modulation PWM to simulate voltages from 0 to 5 volts at the output. We send this value to the LED using the analog write function. If we declare another output pin, we can send the same PWM value there, which allows us to capture the signal on the oscilloscope and visualize the LED control in real time. So let's turn the scope on. You can see a noisy signal on the screen. The probe isn't connected, so the input is floating and picking up EMI noise from the surrounding environment. Now let's connect our alligator clips, one to ground and the other one to the additional output pin that carries the same PWM values as the LED. The scope is trying to lock onto the signal. And here it is. You can see the square wave. If I change the position of the potentiometer, you can actually see the duty cycle change in real time. As the LED brightness decreases, signal spends less time at 5 volts in each cycle. When the brightness increases, it spends more time at 5 volts, reflecting the change in the duty cycle. This looks great. Let's turn on the signal information. We can see that the signal frequency is 1 kHz. By adjusting the potentiometer, you can observe the change in the duty cycle of the signal. Now let's create a more complex signal using the microcontroller, which we can then display on the oscilloscope. How about a stair-step signal, where we start at 0 volts, then after half a second we increase to 0.5 volts, then after another half a second we go to 1 volt, we continue this way until we reach 3 volts and then step down to 0 volts, repeating the cycle. This cannot be done with Arduino Nano because this microcontroller can only output 0 or 5 volts and cannot produce intermediate voltage levels. So let's switch to the ESP32, which has 2 digital to analog converters, DACs, connected to GPIO pins 25 and 26. Here's how the code works. We declare DAC pin 25. We start by outputting 0 volts and define a step increment of 50. There is nothing to do in the setup. In the loop, we send the current value to the DAC pin, then increment the value for the next loop iteration. If the value exceeds 255, we reverse the step to -50, so the voltage decreases back towards 0 volts. Once it reaches 0 volts, we switch the step back to 50, allowing the signal to rise again. We wait half a second between each step. The code is loaded, so let's connect the probe and see if the oscilloscope displays the signal correctly. To my surprise, the auto mode struggles to capture this signal properly. You can see that it's trying, but I waited and waited, and the scope just couldn't lock onto it. So I went back to the manual. Let's have a look. Haha, now it's all clear. No, just kidding. Let's find an English section. I didn't have much hope because the manual is really basic. But what do you know? There was this statement that I completely overlooked. the first time around. According to this document, the device struggles to detect signals with frequencies below 24 Hz. So what is the frequency of the signal produced by our code? That should be quite easy to calculate. We have 12 steps in the cycle, and each step lasts half a second. So the whole cycle takes 6 seconds. The frequency is the inverse of the period. So 1 divided by 6 gives us a frequency of 0.16 Hz, which is nowhere near the required 45 Hz. So what should the delay be? We can work backwards from the required 45 Hz. Again, we take the inverse. 1 divided by 45, which gives us roughly 22 milliseconds for the entire cycle. Now, we divide that by the number of steps, 12, and we end up with a maximum acceptable delay of about 1.85 milliseconds per step. So in our code, we can either use delay microseconds instead of delay, or simply use 1 millisecond delay, which should be fast enough for the scope to detect the signal. Okay, so the code with a 1 millisecond delay is loaded. The probe is connected, so let's turn the scope on and activate auto mode. As you can see, the scope is trying to lock onto the signal, and this time it looks much better. There it is. Let's change the time scale to make the entire signal cycle wider. We can see that the frequency is around 86 Hz. Now let's turn off the details to get a clear view of our microcontroller generated signal. Wonderful. Alright, so what is the verdict? For my limited needs, this device is perfect. Sure, it would be great to have 2 channels to be able to show 2 signals and compare them, but do I want to pay a steep price for it? I don't think so. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, like and share it, and subscribe if you want to see similar content in the future. You can also join these wonderful people who decided to support this channel either through channel membership, PayPal, Patreon or Ko-fi. I'll see you guys in my next video. Ciao!